Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel with the latest updates from the United Kingdom. The British government continues to betray Brexit and the people of this country. The European Union are allowing the country to go back into the EU through the back door initially and now seems like directly. And we now have a leaked document from the Labour Party, Labour government that has been revealing a lot of the information about what the plan is going to be. Of course, we will get your reaction if you're watching this live. Let's talk about this nonsense, complete nonsensical story. We've been trying to warn people for the past few years since Keir Starmer became Labour leader in 2020. And a lot of people said just downplay it. Well, it's okay. Keir Starmer was only the shadow Brexit secretary. He only tried to campaign to stop Brexit. He only was trying to meet up with the European politicians behind our backs. Everything's fine. He's just Labour leader now. It's okay. And then some people still decided to vote for the Labour Party in the recent general election. I'm not really sure why. Even if they were angry at the Tories, I'm not really sure Labour is the best alternative option. Having said that, the Labour government is not doing too well. They are falling apart. Keir Starmer is sinking like Titanic. The shadow cabinets are panicking about their own positions. The Labour backbench MPs are planning rebellion again. At this point, May 2025, when we are supposed to be having our local elections in the country, which, by the way, some of them will be cancelled now, as they reported yesterday, there will be rebellion by that point. Now, because the government is not doing too well, Keir Starmer announced a great reset. He announced a great reset after announcing the plan for change, and then announced change to the initial change. That didn't go well, so he announced the reset, and then he announced the great reset. I'm not really sure what the next step is going to be, but part of this reset is resetting our relationship with the European Union, despite the fact that almost 10 years ago, we voted to leave the European Union. Since then, every election, people voted for parties that wanted to leave the EU, as in the Brexit Party and, of course, Reform and the Tory Party. In 2019, it was a massive mandate for Boris Johnson to leave the EU. Keir Starmer doesn't get this. He's going around, once again, trying to betray this. The trust between the state and the populace. He has been having meetings with the head of the European Commission, the dictator of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, over the last couple of years when he was in opposition. Over the last few months, he has been accelerating these negotiations, renegotiations. Initially, it was to take us back into the legal framework of the EU, but not actually become a member. This is where it gets interesting. The pro-EU liberal globalist fanatics have been trying to play with words to try to trick the public. The clash, the cultural clash between British patriots, you can see on the right, and the champagne middle-class socialists on the left continues. People who voted to leave the EU, people who wanted Britain to be independent and sovereign, their problem wasn't necessarily just the EU membership. It wasn't just the membership of the organization, the globalist entity. It was the fact that we were tied to the European Union and EU judges and EU laws. The membership, it was by default the problem. But you don't have to be a member of the EU to be tied to the European Union. We have a number of countries already tied to the European Union without being official members. So Keir Starmer, they're playing with words saying, don't worry guys, we're not actually becoming an official member state. Okay, so what's the plan? We're going to get back into the single market, right? Without being an official member of single market. What does that mean? Well, we're going to have to relax the border control policies, reopen the borders a little bit, just a little bit. And it's like, okay, what next? Fisheries. Renegotiate with the Europeans so that they could come into our waters to take our fish to sell it back to us. Okay, what next? Well, security. We're going to have to obviously give more of our armed forces powers to the European Union. All right. Is there anything else? Yes. The leaked document now confirms that they are also taking us back into the European Court of Justice, the ECJ. The main court, which is a kangaroo court, it's not a real court. The court is there, by the way, so that if the European Union has a relationship with any other country, That court will be the referee, the impartial referee. The court is part of the European project. They want to be the referee. We are currently using the European Court of Justice to deal with issues between Northern Ireland and the European Union. Northern Ireland is still essentially part of the European Union. But Northern Ireland is also part of the United Kingdom. So we haven't actually left. We've left as a member state, but we're still tied to EU laws. There's been some reaction on this already. Jacob Rees-Mogg, former cabinet minister, said, obviously the newspaper Sun has started a campaign to keep Brexit and keep Britain obviously independent. Rees-Mogg says, I support the Sun's campaign. Good. He also added that Labour is trying to take us back into the EU by stealth. It's a game of grandmother's footsteps in the hope that British people will not notice. We also had David Jones, who was former Brexit minister, saying Sir Keir appears to be surrendering to the jurisdiction of a foreign court. He's not a patriot. He wants to give away independence of this country. He was the man who wanted a second referendum, so has always hated Brexit. Sir Keir should remember his majority is on a minority vote, and people will be appalled at his duplicity in taking this action. That's true. It's funny because a lot of people have been recently complaining about the relationship the UK has with the other European judges, which is the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights. But the ECHR is not part of the EU, as you guys know, but some people don't know. But the European Court of Human Rights is separate to the EU. Indirectly, it's still part of the same project. It's part of the European project, but it's not officially as part of the European Union. A lot of people are complaining about that. But we're now going to bring in the official court of the European Union, the European Court of Justice. The ECJ is officially the arm, the kangaroo court arm of the dictator of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen. So you think you had problems with the ECHR, now you have to deal with the European Court of Justice, telling you what to do, how to live your lives, how your local representatives should behave, everything. So it doesn't matter if you are a member state or if you're not a member state of the European Union, you will be tied to EU rules. It's just going to get worse and worse. Eventually, what this creates is an atmosphere that we are tied to EU laws and EU judges, but we're not getting the benefits, right? Benefits, as they say, benefits. So a few years from now, they're going to bring up a new conversation. Guys, we are close to the EU. You know, we're trading, but we don't have a space. We don't have a spot on the round table to negotiate on behalf of Britain. We have a solution. Let's make Britain a member state of the European Union again, because we are already tied. That's what they're going to do. They're going to make us tied, and then eventually you're going to get frustrated because it's not going to work. It's a hybrid situation. We're not independent, but we're independent. It's very confusing. So after a few years, they're going to say we have a lot of problems. So the solution is return to the EU. That is the issue. Now, this leaked document, there are a number of areas that Harry Cole of The Sun has been focusing on, how it's going to affect us. Number one, laws. We already have thousands of EU laws in our statute book in the UK because we haven't been able to remove them thanks to the Tory government. They found it difficult. There are thousands of EU laws from back in the day. We don't have, if the EU creates new laws, it doesn't apply to us now because we're not a member, which is good. But until Keir Starmer's new plan, then yes, even new laws will be applied to us. But we have existing laws that we can't scrap because it's been difficult, according to civil servants. Civil servants have been tricking our politicians and our ministers, the Tory government, saying it's difficult, guys, it's difficult. They've been trying to deflect. Now, this government is very happy to keep the EU laws. So that's one thing. It's just we're going to add new laws to the existing EU laws without any democratic will. Free movement, that's open borders. Labour could be about to open the door to what critics call free movement by stealth. Yeah, this is called the youth mobility, by the way. Under 30s, and it's mostly going to be men from Europe, will be able to freely come into the country. Fishing rights, that's the next one. It's our waters, UK waters, officially our territory, but the European Union want to have access, especially the French and also partly the Dutch, want to come, take our fish, take it to their country, then sell it back to us. If we don't, we will be punished. This is why the European Union is a racket. It's a legalized mafia. It's organized crime in terms of white-collar crime. That's what it is. There's a bunch of mafia gangsters in suits and ties. That's what they are doing. So you've got laws. You've got free movement, open borders. You've got the fisheries issue. Then you also have the trade and security. So the EU are asking, obviously, the UK to sign up to something called dynamic alignment with EU regulations in exchange for better trade and security ties. Again, goes back to the mafia analogy. They are the ones coming to us saying, in order to keep us safe, we have to basically bribe them. We have to listen to them. They will give us protection. It's like when the mafia go to a random local shop saying, oh, if you want protection, you have to give us money and listen to what we tell you to do. If you don't, your shop is at risk. And the shop owners are like, well, everything's fine in this area. It's very safe. But no, because the mafia will be creating problems for you. Then you say, oh, my shop is under attack. What do I do? Give protection money. That's what the European Union is doing. In exchange for trade and security, you will have to obey to the European dictatorship. That's the main one. Ben Habib has already reacted to this. Ben Habib is one of the few people who hasn't given up the fight. He said, Northern Ireland never left the grip of the ECJ, the European Court of Justice. Brexit was betrayed years ago. Starmer is just killing it off. Ben Habib, as I said, never stopped. After we officially left as a member in 2020, 2021, because he said, this deal is not just imperfect. We haven't actually left because Northern Ireland is still part of the EU. He's been campaigning on his own. Nobody wanted to listen. Even now, not many people in the establishment want to listen. Look what's happening now. Now, unfortunately, Ben Habib is not on frontline politics right now. He's not part of any political party. So he won't really have a voice, but as an activist, he does. He's been trying. He's been going to Northern Ireland regularly. He's been having meetings. He's been leading campaigns. But we do need more people to wake up, especially those in the mainstream political parties. If they claim to be in favour of Britain's independence, they have to prove it to the rest of us. There's a lot of reaction in the live chat. Let's get some of them. Ivan, thank you. What we, the people, want doesn't count. We are insects for them to walk all over. Yeah, they have no respect. They absolutely have. I mean, it's not really a surprise, but it's just it's a little bit abnormal for them not to even bother to lie to you. They just say, we don't really care what people think anymore. Usually you get this when a government is very secured and arrogant. Like Tony Blair in 1997, 98, 99, he could do whatever he wanted, and he did. Because there was an illusion of popularity, there was an illusion of security, his government had a massive majority. This government is on shaky grounds. Nobody wants Keir Starmer. Nobody actually, there's no mandate for Keir Starmer. Turnout was low. Only 20% of the country voted for Keir Starmer's Labour Party. And they are seeing the result. Flossytops says, no point getting mad, but one day we will get even. Yeah, this is going to be an ongoing fight. And let's not forget, the European Union as a dictatorship is not stable. It's not sustainable. So I'm not saying just give up the fight right now. Don't worry about it. No, continue to fight for your sovereignty if you're in Britain. But this is not long term. Firstly, the ongoing fight, the cultural fight between pro-EU and anti-EU will continue. Next government will come in, whether it's Reform, whether it's Tory, whether it's coalition between Tory and Reform, they will reverse it again. But the EU itself will not last. It will implode massively. Luke says, can any of us honestly say we are surprised? Not really. But the interesting thing is, there were a lot of people in 2024, July, that voted Labour just because they were angry with the Tories. And I can assure you there were enough of them who some voted Brexit, yes, and some might have voted Remain, but they kind of accepted Brexit. They're like, I like my country, I accept the will of the people. But these people, because they were angry at the Tories, they still voted Labour. They did this to us. It's those people who claim to be relatively patriotic, relatively care about the country, by voting for Keir Starmer's Labour, in the general election. That's what they did this. And obviously, even those who spoil their ballot, spoiling your ballot is still democratic, I get it. But not voting for any party, you are also as bad as those who voted Labour in this election. So it doesn't matter if you split the vote, that doesn't matter. Those who voted Tory, those who voted Reform UK, they're fine. You chose your party with conviction. Those who chose, and those who campaign to spoil ballots or vote Labour just because you were angry with the Tories, well, this is the country you created. Anyway, going back to you guys, Luke also says, oh, that's the same comment, I think. Yep. Ivan says, the EU will just ravage this country. They have a lot of issues as well among themselves, so they will find it difficult. Sheila says, why can't they respect the will of the people? We don't want EU leaders. We can't vote in. Yeah, I agree. Because it's a dictatorship. We don't vote for any of them. Aaron says, I fear this will need to be dealt a blow in the blood. If we manage to raise awareness about this story. So right now, so far, and I've been paying attention to the media over the last few hours, GB News, I think they're talking about this. They will talk about this. GB News will talk about it, even if they haven't so far. The Sun, obviously, did the expose. So thank you to Harry Cole, good friend of mine, and the Sun for exposing this. But that's the press. That's irrelevant. They shape the narrative, but they don't actually have that much power these days. Now we have new media outlets doing it. If we manage to keep talking about this, and again, GB News also has massive viewers, not as much as us, it will help. People need to remember what you're dealing with. The issue with this Labour government, we have different battles and different fronts. We got the two-tier justice system, the two-tier policing, Keir Starmer's war on pensioners, self-employed, young people, all different groups. But it's important for people to remember, focus on each battle separately as well as the big fight. Because there are many people who need to be waken up who don't know something that will affect them. So there will be a lot of people who would say, well, I'm not a pensioner. I don't care what's happening to pensioners. Or I don't really, they're not saying in a harsh way, but that's how they think. Or I don't really care. I'm not self-employed or blah, blah, blah. But then you say, oh, by the way, you work in a sector where if we go back to the EU, essentially, you will be affected. And they will say, oh, okay, now let's fight against Starmer. People, a lot of people, when it comes to politics and voting, will be selfish. Not in a bad way. People focus on their own lives and their family. They vote based on their own interest. So they have to bring up all these different battles that we're having against Keir Starmer's government to wake as many people as possible. Kenny says, Maya, I have a sneaking feeling that there could be another peasant revolt. Wait and see. I mean, people have been saying this since 2018 when Brexit was being challenged and cancelled and reversed. We haven't had any of it. We had protests, pro-Brexit protests, but not really revolt. We don't really do revolutions in this country. I mean, there was one that lasted about 10 minutes with Oliver Cromwell. People changed their mind. Whereas if this were happening in France or even the Netherlands or Germany, I mean, even Germany in recent years, you would get more reaction. It's a fascinating part of the British culture right now. But don't be complacent, because one day the Brits will implode and it will be chaotic. I'm addressing the state and the authorities right now. Ryan says, can we not all complain that Labour has lied in its manifesto? Yeah, but it's not illegal. That's the issue. I mean, we do this basically every day by exposing the Labour Party. But it's not illegal to lie in manifestos, because that will create a whole can of worms if you make manifestos a legal contract, because there will be at times you put something in manifesto, then you go into the government, you're like, oh, I didn't know this. We can't do that. So it's a very tricky. I think we should just take manifestos back to how they used to be. Manifestos were not detailed policy plan. They were simple documents that showed the set of values of a political party, saying we are this type of party, we believe in these set of values. That was much easier. Then you vote for them based on that. And obviously you listen to the policies from your local candidates and everything else. They made it more difficult for themselves, these stupid political parties, by centralizing all the powers, and they put so much pressure on themselves by writing stupid policies without thinking about them. So it's full of lies and empty promises because they think we're idiots. I mean, a lot of people still vote for them, so maybe they have a point. Graham says this can't be legal. There's nothing, unfortunately, illegal about it. That's the issue. It's a betrayal. It's disgusting, but it's not illegal if they take us back. Look, why is it always Labour voters? I'm so glad you also mentioned no voters are those who spoil the ballots. However, the Tories are not much better. Yeah, I mean, they're not as bad, but they're not that good. The Tories are the reason we're in this mess. The Tories are the reason that we didn't have a functioning government because they were too busy. I'm not sure what they were doing. Sheila says, sorry, I was typing faster than my brain was going. Oh, yes, because you missed the word. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's okay. Debbie says, right now, failing Europe, German and French economies in free fall, and government pushing to join. That's a good point. It is ridiculous, isn't it? Considering that the European project is falling apart, the Eurozone is in a mess. National debt in each of the top European countries is skyrocketing. And also, the actual stability of the European Union structure is non-existent. Somehow we got the Euro federalists in Britain saying, yeah, maybe we should join them. It's sinking. Why do you want to get on the ship? It makes no sense. But it's not really about logic. It's a different worldview. The liberal globalists in the West have a different worldview than the rest of the people. They don't really care about the consequences. They got bigger plans than that. Anyway, just a quick reminder. Thank you so much, everybody who has recently also joined 2CTV Plus. Obviously, we have been our team. We've been working really hard to create more documentaries and new, obviously, premium content for you guys. The product is going well, and obviously, we are sorting out the new app, which will be coming out. I can't say soon. I've been saying soon for like 2 months now, but it will be early in the new year. But we do have the new show Decline of the Western education, featuring Catherine Bibbleson, the toughest headmistress in the UK. Let's quickly go watch a few seconds of the trailer. Education is the foundation of any thriving society. But in the West, we have seen its standards fall dramatically.
White teachers are decolonizing their curricula, and they are apologizing for who they are. Teachers in general feel bad about giving detentions. Instead, they are teaching the great works of the drag queen Panty Bliss. And I'm not kidding.
What? Okay.
They're teaching Panty Bliss instead of Shakespeare. I'm always astonished. I watch these videos and I think, why would you take your 2-year-old to be read to by a drag queen? But it's because you're a bad person if you don't do that. I mean, these people are crazy. They're just crazy. I mean, I don't even know, like, why don't you just go and live your life? Just leave me alone, right? Like, why do you care so much? And that's what's weird. Why do you care so much? The patriotism that goes with that, the idea of sacrificing, where individualism did not reign, where you belonged to a community and to something bigger than yourself.
The decline of Western education is not inevitable. We can fix it, but it starts with bold leadership and a commitment to real change. So that was the decline of Western education. You can now watch that short documentary on 2CTV Plus by going on 2c.tv or 2ctvplus.tv. The link is in the description. If you join on an annual basis, you get 1 month for free. As I said, the whole team, we've been working really hard on these projects. There's more stuff coming in the new year. Let's get a couple of reactions again while we are here. Where are we? Paul says, Maya, is it time for a modern day Crusade? The thing is, well, we need a version of a strong movement in all our countries. Again, whether you're talking about the Netherlands and Britain, the problem is that you are seeing an aspects of it in other countries right now. There are tough movements in France and many other countries. In the UK, you need to wake people up first, They need to actually rally the troops, and it's a job of political activists and movements and political parties to do it. So when we say crusades, those watching from MI5 right now, don't freak out. We're not talking about like going around with shields and swords. But in terms of the British Revolution way, yes, we need a whole shake-up in the system. Otherwise, nothing will change. Paul also says, Maya, why are we, the British people, always standing down? What if we stand together? Because we love to be divided. Even on the political right, people spend more time attacking each other on the right than actually focus on the real enemy and the political left. People say, no, you're not as right-wing as you should be. You're not as patriotic as you should be. You're a fake conservative, or you're too much of a conservative. Like that is one of the main issues. And the reason for that is that a lot of people from the other side coming into this side stir the pot, cause division, distract us, and that's what this happens. We don't really have any unity. We haven't had unity since probably 1980s. This is the issue. There are people stirring the pot. There are people dividing the political right in general, cultural right and political right. Whether you are a classical liberal, old English liberal, whether you are a modern conservative, whether you are just a nationalist, well, you might have some different policy. We all have one thing in common. But the people want us to attack each other. And this way, we will never be united. Martin, let's get some non-super chats. Martin says, Maya, it took a referendum to get out and originally join. No, we didn't have it. Okay, so surely there has to be another either way. No, so we didn't have a referendum in the first one to join the European Union. In the 1990, the government just took us into the European Union without telling anybody. There was a referendum in the 1970s, but that was not the European Union. That was obviously the common market. That was a whole different project. It was the beginning of the European project, but it was not the European Union. When they set up the EU, they just said, we're joining. In 2016, obviously, yes, there was a referendum, but referendums are advisory. So technically speaking, you don't really, the government didn't really have to follow it. Obviously, in terms of the handshake agreement between the state and the people, they had to. That's why there were MPs trying to stop Brexit from happening. It's because legally they didn't have to do it. So that's a whole different conversation to have about referendums and should we have them advisory or should we have it like a legal contract? So my point is you don't necessarily have to have a referendum to rejoin the EU. And that is a problem. But also, let's not forget, if you have a referendum, with the new generation of younger people being brainwashed, you might not be able to win that vote. The whole thing is changing because there's not a proper debate about this problem. It's bad, isn't it? Peter says, I hate farmers. We need wolves and bears in the UK. Okay. Out of context. Katie says, my mother said the common market will be bad, and look where it is now. Those who in the 1970s knew where it's going to lead to this whole project, they were very smart, they were very wise. Someone said in the live chat, Joshua, no, it's not advisory. It is advisory. We voted out, then they must respect the democratic process. Okay, so this is the problem. Ordinary people language is different to constitutional language. Common sense is different to legality. Legally speaking, constitutionally, parliamentary-wise, the referendum was, I'm saying as Brexiteer, I was part of the Brexit campaign. The referendum was advisory. Constitutionally, it was advisory. It was not legal in the sense that it didn't have power to force government to actually implement it. Common sense, yes, common sense-wise, normal people language, yes, we told you to leave, you should leave. But there's a difference between normal language and obviously constitutional language. And this is where they use it against us. That's why the pro-EU side, they say, no, it was advisory, we should not leave. No, we told you to leave, you leave. I don't care about your technical language. We said leave, leave. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We're going to keep an eye on this leaked document and how the Labour government will be betraying Britain as usual. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.